Today I'm going to review the 2019 Powertec Levergym. This is one of my most favorite pieces of equipment. In fact, if I could only keep two pieces of equipment, I would keep my squat rack and the Powertec Levergym. I purchased this machine in March of 2020 and it arrived 10 days after the date of purchase. It arrived via Custom Companies, which is a freight company. It arrived on a pallet in 3 different boxes. Everything was perfectly packaged and nothing was damaged inside of any of the boxes. The machine only took about an hour to put together, and if you have any trouble putting the machine together, Powertec has instructions on YouTube on how to do it. I paid $1,230 for this machine. Since then, the price has jumped up to $1,500, but there are a few things you can do to save some money. First, I sold the bench that came with it. I sold the bench for $250. I already had a Powertec flat incline decline bench, and I didn't need a second one. Also, when I'm using this machine, I find that this old bench that I have right here fits the machine better than the Powertec flat incline decline bench. I had some other attachments that I was able to sell when I bought this machine, starting with the Viking press attachment. You can do Viking presses with this machine, so I was able to sell that attachment. Also, I had a Titan Fitness leg roller. I sold that because you can do Bulgarian split squats by setting up the squat bar on the lever arms. I also sold my Titan safety squat bar version 2. I ended up buying it again, but you can do squats in this machine. I'll show you a few ways to make the squats better, but it's still not the most natural movement. This machine is just so versatile. You have your high-low pulley. So at the time when I bought this machine, I had the high-low pulley attachment that attaches to the power rack. I sold that. So that was another way that I was able to save money because I didn't need 2 high-low pulleys. And although it's not quite as good as a hammer strength machine, for example, there are so many different ways you can set up this machine to copy some of those hammer strength machines that are thousands and thousands of dollars. You can do shoulder presses, incline presses, flat presses, decline presses. You can do low rows. There's just so much to do with these lever arms. And I know Rogue and Rep and Titan have lever arms that attach to the rack, and that's a fine option. I've never actually used those because I feel like the lever arms that I have here are just as good and probably a little easier to get in position than some of those lever arms that attach to the racks. With this new Levergym, quite a few upgrades took place over the old ones. First off, you have the band pegs. Secondly, you have this piece right here, which allows you to adjust the arms into 15 different positions. Some of the older models didn't have this piece and you could only adjust the lever arms to 7 or 8 positions. Also, where these plates are, with this newer model, you can take these plate posts out. Another improvement that's been made with this machine from way back to like 2007 is that the arms are isolateral. When I got my very first multi-press from Powertec, you couldn't move the arms isolaterally, so that was a great improvement. And that was the first multi-press that I had, and it was okay. It didn't quite fit me perfectly. And then I sold that one during one of the many moves that I've made over the years, and I ended up purchasing a newer edition of the multi-press when it was changed from gray to black. And that machine did have the isolateral arms, but it didn't have this piece right here, which allows for all of these different settings. And I liked the machine, but I felt like it never quite fit me right. However, this one does fit me right in most every position simply because of this piece and by using my bench instead of the Powertec flat incline decline bench. The machine comes with a squat bar that attaches to the lever arms. It also comes with a chain and a couple of carabiners. You will need that chain for a couple of exercises, and I'll tell you why in a second. The machine also came with a lat bar, a curl bar, and a single handle. I sold those 3 attachments, and by selling those, I was able to reduce the cost of the machine some. With most high-low pulleys, the weight horns travel on 2 guide rods straight up and down. Here, with the Levergym, you have an arm that moves in an arcing motion, and the weight is a little bit easier compared to the traditional high-low pulley. There is a 300-pound weight limit on that arm, so keep that in mind if you're extremely strong. I've had upwards of 200 without any trouble, and I don't see myself really exceeding 300 anytime soon, if ever for that matter, so that's not an issue for me. With some movements, the chain will be necessary. If you take the tricep push down, for example, before I can reach a full range of movement, I've exceeded the range of motion of the machine. So that I can get a full range of movement, that chain. And now I've got that full range of movement. Similarly, if you wanted to do a curl with a bit of a stretch, you'll see that I can't get a full range of movement because I've exceeded the range of motion of the machine. But simply by adding that chain in, I can now get that full range of movement. So I'm really glad that Powertec included the chain because it is necessary for a lot of exercises. Some high-low pulley systems that are sold that attach to racks don't have these roller pads attached to them. Luckily, this machine does, because when you increase your weight and you're doing a pull down, for example, it's hard to hold your body down. But if you put your thighs under these roller pads, that solves that problem. A concern sometimes with the high-low pulley is that during the eccentric portion of the movement, you can't get a full range of movement because the pulley wheel is not high enough. Well, that's not the case with this Levergym. It's 81 inches high. I'm about 5'9", and fully extended, I still don't hit the bottom of the machine. Now let's just say you had really long arms or you're extremely tall. The problem may be that your bench is too high. So one way to solve that problem is to get a stool that's lower than your bench. Sit on here, lower these roller pads, and now someone who's taller can get locked in under the roller pads and get a full range of movement. If you purchase the Levergym, I would recommend getting this foot plate for the high-low pulley. I did have the Valor Fitness plate-loaded row, and I sold that because I really didn't need it as soon as I got this foot plate for the lower pulley on the high-low pulley. My most favorite movement with this machine is an incline chest press. Right now, I'm working dual action arms. If I wanted to go and work my arms independently of one another, it's easy. Just pull out this pin, and now the arms can be worked independently of one another. There are a lot of angles that can be worked between incline and flat. Just know that. Here's the flat press. This is a pretty good movement. The arc is just a tad bit weird, so I don't like doing flat press on here as much as I like doing incline and decline. Here's the decline press. Since my bench doesn't do a full decline movement, I just added a cinder block and a stall mat underneath of it, and this angle works really well for me. Again, if I wanted to go to independently working the arms of one another, I don't even have to get up. Just pull the pin out, and now I have that isolateral function. Here's the shoulder press, and this is quite possibly one of my favorite movements on this machine. I feel like this easily hangs with the hammer strength overhead press. Here's a Viking press, another one of my most favorite movements on this machine. The machine works great for rack chins. This is a Dante Trudel classic movement right here. You can use the lever arms for a dip station. Here I'm using the squat bar attachment for Bulgarian split squats. The machine works great for calf raises and also reverse lunges. Just pull the pin out, station it here. When you're done, slide the pin back. One movement that I came up with just messing around that I like a lot is a front squat. I was trying to mirror the pendulum squat, and this is as close as I could get it with this machine. But I have the bar positioned against my shoulders. The The arms are resting on that pin, and when I'm ready to go, I start from a seated position and drive up. This actually feels better than doing the back squat on it. The only limitation would be how much weight your arms and shoulders can hold in place like this. I have some things in place to ensure safety when getting close to failure on the Levergym squat. First off, I have a box behind me. Secondly, when I pull this pin out, I just brace it up against the handles, and I have another pin right there in case I reach failure. That's a pin off of a solo flex that I just had for parts. When I squat down, I hit the box. So if I ever do reach failure, I have the box right here to save me. 2 bands from Elite FTS on each side. Here's a wide squat. If I wanted to, I could do a narrow squat also. The motion isn't quite as good as a barbell squat or a safety squat, but it's good for anybody who doesn't have a rack and still wants to do a squatting type movement in their training program. And then when I'm done, my pin is right here on the handle. Here's a closer shot of the additional safety mechanism I have in place, just in case I reach failure when doing any type of a squatting movement. I just have this pin that slides in and out. And again, that came from a solo flex. I would really like to see Powertec include something like this when they sell this piece of equipment. Most of the complaints that I've heard about trying to squat on this machine, other than it being somewhat of an unnatural movement, is that it's hard to go to failure. Well, that solves that problem. One of the only tweaks I've had to make to this machine is to adjust the angle a little bit on the lever arms for rowing movements, and I'll show you how I do that now. The next step to improve the range of motion for the lever arms is to remove both pins. Now I have the lever arms resting up against the lower frame. I do have UHMW tape here and here, just so I don't have metal resting on metal. Now I have a greater range of movement with the lever arms. But I can further improve the range of motion by adding in the Angles 90 grips. These are an awesome tool for a relatively low price. They can be used for pull-ups and a variety of other exercises. However, I mainly use them for the lever arms. Now with the Angles 90 grips in place, I have an even better range of motion. A few ways I think the machine can be improved. First, get rid of these little hooks. They're not needed. I think the only reason that they're there is to hold the lat bar, and really, they get in the way more than anything. It's very hard to get attachments on and off that high pulley because of those hooks. Secondly, I would like to see the band pegs a little bit longer. I can get 2 of the thicker Elite FTS bands on there, but I would like to be able to get 3 on there. I would like for these weight horns to be angled like these weight horns, simply because I have to use the collars anytime I have plates on that arm. Other than those very few complaints, I absolutely love this machine. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's one of my most favorite machines out of all the ones that I have, probably second only to the squat rack. I think this machine will last me the rest of my lifting career, or when it's time to give up lifting, I'll sell the machine and make some money back. And it's not like a gym membership where you lose money. When you buy gym equipment, you use it for as long as you want, you sell it, and then you make some of the money back that you spent initially. Powertec is not paying me for this review. In fact, I don't think Powertec has a clue who I am, but I've been using their product since 2007. My very first Powertec product was the gray power rack that you could buy from bodybuilding.com. And since then, I've had 3 of their power racks. I've had 2 of their multi-presses. Obviously, this Levergym. I had their leg press back there. I have the compact leg sled. I've had 2 of their Smith machines. I've had 3 of their high-low pulleys. I've had 3 of their flat incline, decline benches. And I also had some of the attachments that you can get for the workbench. I had the preacher curl, the pec fly, the dip attachment, as well as the leg press attachment. So over the years, I've supported Powertec a lot, and their products have always worked for me. Sometimes it takes a little bit of tweaking to find just the right setting, but overall, I'm very happy with the machines. For me, the Levergym gets a 5 out of 5. There's just so much that can be done with it, from the high-low pulley to the lever arms, to the band posts. You can attach the low row foot plate to it. You can do exercises standing. And then I showed you a few other things that you can do to really increase the number of exercises that can be done with just this one piece of equipment. It's pretty compact. It only is 81 inches high, 81 inches long, and about 60 inches deep. If you found this review helpful, please like the video and consider subscribing to my channel. Hopefully, I've given you enough information to make you either want to buy the Levergym or stay away from it completely. But again, from me, 5 out of 5, one of the best pieces in my equipment arsenal.